All right, we are recording. Thanks, Kilian, from the Boltz. It's wonderful to have you, spend some time chat with us. I mean, especially talking about the most, because the Boltz has been one of the most hottest topic over, because it's a really great tool for me. I mean, I personally use every day. So would you?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for the kind words.
So would you just do a little introduction about maybe yourself and your product and your team background, etc.?
Sure. So I personally got into Bitcoin, I think it was back in early 2016. Fun fact, it was actually in China. So I've been back in China, then working at B2B Zhongguo, BTC China. So working together with Bobby Lee, Samson Mao. And honestly, I got into it without really knowing what I got into. So I started, that's kind of a rare case, I guess, that I start working in Bitcoin without knowing anything about Bitcoin. But I'm very glad it happened, obviously, since it gave me the opportunity to deeply understand and get myself involved with Bitcoin before even the 2017 thing happened and all that. So it was really an accident that I ended up in Bitcoin back then. I worked on a mobile wallet a little bit before, and my next project thereafter was already pretty closely related what Boltz is doing now. So I got myself familiar with Automic Swaps. So we were, I think, after Charlie Lee, we at Boltz, already the Boltz team back then, were the second one after him to do swaps between Litecoin and Bitcoin, just to demo the technical capability of swapping two different assets atomically. And this then gradually evolved, and we saw the market going into, okay, Bitcoin is evolving into layers now. So there's not only the main chain, there's definitely Lightning, and there will be actually more in the future. So that's what we are focusing on now with Boltz, and how the team gradually grew is by attracting talent from different circles of the Bitcoin economy. So right now we're supporting the Bitcoin main chain, the Bitcoin Lightning Network, and Liquid, and another sidechain which is called Rootstock is in the works. So those are really the four layers that we will be supporting pretty soon, and basically you can swap in between all of them. So all Bitcoin denominated, and focuses on moving and swapping between different Bitcoin layers.
Yeah. I mean, that's a wonderful intro for the product. I mean, especially because as far as I know, in Bitcoin ecosystem, the term kind of atomic swap is often used, right? Like people sometimes confuse with, I know it's actually like a cross chain, but they just took it as stuff like that. But we have our own terminology in Bitcoin, which is something different to Ethereum, other chains and stuff. So my question. Oh, sorry. You go ahead.
No. I think it's a very interesting topic to talk about, the definition of an atomic swap, right? So the definition is not cross-chain. The definition is not, it has to be from one point to another. It doesn't really define which two assets you are swapping and where they reside. The definition of an atomic swap is that I swap asset A against asset B non-custodially. So none of the two parties can cheat on each other, because actually the two transactions of a swap, they get executed atomically. That's the definition. It doesn't matter if it's both happening on Ethereum, both happening on the Bitcoin main chain, or in between different layers, or in between totally different chains. That's completely oblivious, right? So that's what an atomic swap should be. And then you have subcategories. So we are now in the business of saying, okay, right now we are focusing on submarine swaps, which is
that's one specific. Yeah. There's two different types of atomic swap. One is normal submarine swap, and another is reverse submarine swap. So
correct.
Could you walk through like some detail, or maybe just a simple on the surface, like what are those two atomic swaps?
Okay, so submarine swaps itself is a subcategory of atomic swaps, and it means that on one side there's Lightning involved. That's it. That's a submarine swap. And then you have normal submarine swaps, which simply says the direction is from the chain to lightning. And then you have a reverse submarine swap, which is from lightning to the chain. And to the chain, I say on purpose chain and not main chain or liquid, because it can actually be, it doesn't matter which kind of chain it is. But the important thing about submarine swaps is that one part is lightning. The term itself was coined by Alex Bosworth. So he really pioneered this back in 2019. Fun fact is, we were next to Lightning Labs. We were the second one, the second service that had submarine swaps in a, let's say, production-ready offering. And until today, we're actually the only ones. So there's no one really else, which is interesting.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I mean, when you kind of work through those terminologies, and people often confuse about those, and they just think, you know, oh, okay, the atomic swap is just another term that like those nerdy people in Bitcoin describe it for cross chain. I mean, it's really that point, because at the end of the day, it's still like people asking me, okay, my transaction jammed, how can I, you know, increase, you know, they call it gas fee instead of, you know, transaction fees. So actually this kind of, you know, those are the education that you have to taught to them. And it's really hard, because they kind of, they first like been introduced by Ethereum, then they jump on to the Bitcoin. So it's kind of different road to ride. But I mean, I really like Bitcoin ecosystem, because it's a very tight, and it's a very cultural ecosystem, and then people, they are free to hold on their own beliefs. Like, you know, if you take a look at, you know, the recent incident of Luke, like he criticized, you know, the ordinals, and he's saying, you know, those UTXO block will eventually have to suffer, not affect, you know, the Bitcoin's mainnet integrities, and eventually harm to the overall, you know, humanity that's, you know, benefit from the Bitcoin. So he's been doing that all along. I mean, I respect him, and I personally think you don't need to put those junky information like permanently on chain. You can store them somewhere, you know, off chain, like, you know, RGB and stuff, right? You only put, you know, the most valuable thing on chain, and you can just the rest you just don't really matter. But yeah, I mean, it's a free to have, it's a free word to say something.
Exactly.
It's a free word to, because on Bitcoin you cannot stop people doing anything.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's what I was about to say. So first of all, he's free to do and to have his own mining pool by now, only mining blocks that where the you know, with certain UTXOs filtered out. You're free to even reject certain UTXOs entering your mempool in your node, right? So that's all freedom. But what prevails in the end is what the majority of the network does. And right now, it just doesn't look like this is gonna go away anytime soon. But honestly, I'm not mad about it at all, because it really put the focus on what you said before, to use the main chain. So for all the rest of the ecosystem, to use the main chain for the most valuable things only. So while everything is full of ordinals, the rest of, like I said, the more legitimate payment use cases, they are really focusing on efficiency, and especially using layer 2, leveraging layer 2. So for us, this was a huge driver of our own development, without the main fees spiking because of ordinals, and there'd never been such a takeoff on Liquid, for example, right? So we probably wouldn't have Liquid swaps by now. Probably there wouldn't be anything going on in the Liquid ecosystem by now. So I really see it as an bottom line positive effect, because it contributed greatly to the development of layer 2 technologies, greatly to everyone is now really focused on reducing their on-chain footprint. All the things that you should be doing anyways, but with, you know, 2 sats per vbyte kind of fees, who cares, right? So I really like the development.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, it's a gradual progress that, you know, people sick of using, the high expensive gas fee, not the gas fee, sorry, the transaction fee Bitcoin minute, and they gradually change their, user habit, maybe move it to the layer 2 and using, Atomic Swap as well. So that is, I think that is a very necessary step. I see the trend going on here. So really.
Same. Yeah.
I mean, this kind of links to the next question, which I'm about to ask. Lightning Network has its own problem, right? You got outstanding, the Lightning channels can be unstable. Unstable? What will be the best alternative solution as for now for managing the inbound and outbound liquidity problem?
It's a very tough topic. If there was like this one easy solution that everyone could use, I think it would be widely known by now, but there simply isn't. So the managing liquidity, especially inbound liquidity, is a very tough topic. And let's say for the personal node runners, the Lightning Network consists of thousands and thousands of personal nodes running in Raspberry homes, like in Raspberry Pis on a home router. It's really difficult for such a Lightning node operator to get this right. For us, for example, as a professional operator, it is easier because of a couple of factors. Number one, once you reach a certain size, actually something like an organic network effect applies to you, where your, at least that works for us, your in and outbound liquidity is organically being managed by others. But for that, you need to reach a certain threshold, right? So if you're just like a little node on the edge, this just doesn't happen. People open channels to us. We never open channels to the outside, or almost never, right? So that's people manage their liquidity to us. They take care that we have inbound liquidity as well as outbound liquidity, because we route quite a bit of volume. So they're earning with us. We are a volume driver for their nodes. So we have we're in this nice luxury position, same as, I guess, OKX, Bitfinex, Kraken, Binance. They all run these big nodes. Well, Binance is managing it more tightly, but they all run these big nodes that is actually organically being integrated in the network, and they don't have to do that much by themselves. Nevertheless, we actually started now taking care a little bit of our channels, because we need to make sure that for our service, we, for example, are able in a reverse submarine swap, or in a normal submarine swap, to actually pay to the user. So we need to take care that we have enough outbound liquidity, and we kind of know which routes are usually taking. So we are being taken. So we are monitoring that. We have to take care that these channels are not being depleted by some other routing guy on the network. So by that, with trying to reach that, we actually adjusted fees. Right? So the so-called PPM fee on a Lightning channel, we adjusted them so that certain channels are protected and they're not being used by the organic network that I described before, but we can use it for our own purpose to send out payments, for example. So these are these little tiny detailed adjustments you want to do as a routing node operator to control liquidity a little bit. For personal node runners, they have to use a service like ours, or
they open a channel to you.
Open a channel to us. Let's say open a channel to us. Then all the liquidity moves to our side, which is likely. And once it's on our side, it never moves back. This is, if your node is not super well connected in the network, that's something they see. So they have two choices. So they earned with that, right? So they earned the routing fees while moving the balance to us. But then that's it. The capital is locked in there and it doesn't move anymore. That's bad for us. That's bad for them. It's just capital that's sitting there not doing anything. So they have two choices. Either they close the channel, everyone gets their coins back, and they reopen again, which you can do if you have on a Sunday evening okay-ish mainnet fees. Or you use a service like ours or Loop, and actually swap back, so that you get, from the point of view of the personal node runner, you get the balance back on your side and it can start moving again. And you have to carefully calculate how much did that cost you and was it worth it, right? So the PPM, the fees that I'm earning by forwarding the payment, was it really more than the one that I paid to get it back? And that's the concept. And it gets complicated really fast if you take that to the next level, right? That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's basically the situation we have.
Okay, I do have a concern here. Just what's your counterparty on your channel? Like, are you do you have like LSP doing all the liquidity thing for your particular channel?
No. It's just us. There's no other party involved. It's our node, our everything.
I see. Another stupid question. Like those big major exchange, centralized exchange, they have their own node and channel, right?
Yes.
That's why they can reduce the fees to that low, and they don't incur problems like inbound outbound liquidity problem.
They drive volume. So that's exactly the network effect that I described before is applying to them. So there's just a lot of people, a lot of OKX users, right? So a lot of users are just depositing and withdrawing from OKX, meaning volume. So the network, the node runners are incentivized, organically, naturally incentivized to open channels to OKX and earn by forwarding payments to them. And that works really well. But it's not cheap, actually. So an interesting fact is that routing to very popular destinations like centralized exchanges, like OKX, like Bitfinex, like Kraken, is actually not cheap. So you're paying
$4,
something between 0.1%, 0.15% of purely on routing fees. That's actually normal. Yeah, it's not that cheap, but it's fast, so people use it.
I see. But if I remember correctly, you guys taking 0.15% for the normal submarine swap and
0.14.
Oh, yeah. Okay. That's not a lot. I'm willing to pay that transaction fee if you just deliver my funds to another places correctly. So. Yeah.
And the other direction is actually more expensive. So just in full transparency, so we want to incentivize people to move to use normal submarine swaps, moving from the chain into Lightning, because we have a little bit less volume on this side. And that's why it's cheaper at 0.1%. And for example, on Liquid, it's 0.25% to move from Lightning to the Liquid chain, because we see much more volume there. So we get ourselves a little bit imbalanced. So that's why we made it cheaper on this side to incentivize people using that direction.
There's a need that when you do Automic Swap, like from jumping from one chain to another, eventually you're going to jump back. So you can't really at some point, if there's a hype project on, let's say, on Liquid, so like people do swap all the time, you can use the incentivized kind of method to encourage people to make more swaps from one to another. But but there's none. Literally, aside from some main project on Liquid, Liquid really don't much have so many hype projects. So this is one concern, right? So there will be and always inbound and outbound liquidity problems. So I saw there's a proposal that saying that maybe we can have LSD, like liquid staking, jumping from different channels. Maybe that could have taken in the future, that maybe can solve this inbound and outbound liquidity, so we can kind of land liquidity from other channel to solve the current issue.
Maybe, yeah. I'm not familiar with what kind of proposals are out there, but an interesting fact is with the recent projects on Liquid, actually we saw a pretty balanced for the first time on especially in Liquid, we saw a pretty balanced volume, which kind of never really happened before. But basically, people were going in, doing something in this project, and moving out again. So that for us, that meant the volume was actually So it's yes. So it was actually kind of balanced. So for us, that was good, because like things work out, right? But that's not always the case. For example, you also people use it for different use cases to rebalance Lightning channels, for example. So they move from Lightning into Liquid, and then from Liquid chain to the main chain directly back. So on the Lightning side, we have only one directional flow into Liquid, but it comes back via another way, right? So that's where the imbalance starts. But it really depends on the time. So we now have seen, okay, it's actually possible to have a balanced volume. And we will tweak fees in the future as well in order to incentivize to have a balanced volume.
Yeah, because we've just mentioned about proposals. This kind of link to my next question. What's your thought on the Boltz 12?
On the what? On the
Boltz 12, the proposal.
The Boltz 12 proposal.
Yeah, very interesting proposal.
Good. Yeah, very interesting proposal, very good proposal, very powerful proposal, a little bit complicated. That's why I think it's taking a little bit longer than anticipated in order to get adopted.
But we already have Boltz 11 for invoicing. That's a very huge jump on the improvement. But I mean, like, what can we expect on the Boltz 12 if that like really been implemented?
It is already implemented, just not widely spread yet. For example, Core Lightning CLM, one of the 3 major Lightning node implementations, supports Boltz 12 fully, simply because the main developer behind it, Rusty, he is a Core Lightning developer, so of course he integrated it into Core Lightning first. The thing is, the main feature of Boltz 12 is something called, let's call it a reusable invoice, right? So technically it's not a reusable invoice, but it's a protocol that lets you fetch a new invoice for every payment attempt. So right now on Lightning, you have a major issue, also on Boltz. It's every time a different invoice we are displaying. And that invoice has a specific amount, and it's new every single time, and you need to manually set the amount and actually get the invoice first in order to pay it. So with Boltz 12, that's all automated. So basically, I as a payer say, let's say, for example, Boltzexchange user say, I want to send 20,000 sats, and I just send it. I don't need to think. I don't need to create an invoice. I don't even need to type the amount. I just send it, and the invoice for 20,000 sats is being created and fetched for me automatically. That is for me the main advantage of Boltz 12. So you could also have, let's say, a QR code on a billboard in the city, and which is not possible with regular Lightning invoices, because once it's paid, the invoice is gone, it's dead, and you can't use it anymore. But with Boltz 12, the QR code just contains parameters for the protocol to get you a new invoice every time. So you can scan the QR code and say, I want to donate 50,000 sats to Pepper. Yeah, you can put up billboards for donations or for fan contributions, and it's a static QR code. That is the main advantage of Boltz 12. So while there are actually solutions for that already, like LN URL and LN address, which kind of deliver the same functionality, but they're very centralized. They depend on a web server. With Boltz 12, you are actually getting it directly from the Lightning node. So that's the main USP here is, like, we're not building up any more centralized web server kind of infrastructure. We are staying peer-to-peer Lightning only. That's what Boltz 12 delivers. So I like the proposal a lot. What I don't like that much is that Rusty packaged a lot of other things in there as well. So it's a little bit confusing for some people to actually use it and implement it. But
do you think
eventually it will be there?
You guys can like, because to me it's like a tremendous shift on the user experience, like the improvement of the user experience. Currently, because I made I made actually 2 tutorials based on the Boltzexchange, your product, how to teach people how to make atomic swap from Lightning to Liquid and from Liquid to Lightning. But I mean, they're still confused because the problem here that I spot is that you will have to calculate. You will have to open up another website and to do a BTC and SAT convert. So that's something. I think you guys should include it in your next patch updates, because this really.
Thank you for the feedback. Yes, we saw the problem a lot.
For me, it's pretty hard, to calculate like the certain amount of Bitcoin or SAT that I want to transfer, right? So because you guys set up a limit on on a SAT transfer from Lightning to Liquid. So for me, I have to calculate every time. And in terms of swap back, like the reverse submarine swap, I have to copy paste not the exact same amount. Let's say I swap 50 1,000 set from one to another, I have to, for the second time of swapping back, I have to use not the 50,000 set, but instead of just like 49,000 ish set of invoice that
because of the network fee.
Yeah, because the fee,
Yeah.
and, because the fee that deducted from the trend stuff. So for me, it's very confusing, and
yes, I'm glad you bring it up, because those two issues you just mentioned are exactly the issues that I personally spent in our support channel, drawing circles around something that we recently have put a little bit nicer. Is we actually have now a currency switch between BTC and SATs, but people don't see it or don't use it, or it's there, but it's not that obvious. Or my hunch is that not everyone knows the SAT symbols. It's just not obvious. So it's like cracking my heart. Okay, what can we do? What can we do?
Maybe
because
just
we
like
need
a little indicator, like on the line there, and says how many SAT equivalent is equivalent to Bitcoin and to USD.
That would be one option, but then you end up with BTC, SATs, and USD, because the USD feature was also requested, and then the UI becomes cluttered. So instead, please give me feedback. I had the idea that no matter what users type, we detect automatically if it's like, let's say, a large integer number like 50,000. We know it's not 50,000 Bitcoin. We know it's 50,000 SATs. Right, so we can automatically apply the correct denomination, like SATs in that case. And when someone types 0.1, we know it's not 0.1 SATs. We know it's 0.1 Bitcoin. So the idea is that actually our currency switcher moves automatically depending on the number that people put in or paste. We hope we'll have that.
If they want
to be confusing.
Let's say, if they want to transfer SAT, they start with 0. They don't know, the conversion rate of SAT and Bitcoin. They thought it could be the same. So that kind of raises the question of how can we better solve this. Like what I said, maybe the Boltz 12 can address those questions. Would you guys ever consider to integrate the Boltz 12 to better shift the user experience?
Definitely, once it is supported by more wallets. So we are depending on other wallets to be able to read and actually use Boltz 12. So it's not meaningful to show Boltz 12 if there's only one wallet out there that supports it.
Yeah.
So once we have, like, let's say the major wallets and major mobile Lightning wallets and major implementations all supporting it, will be the first one. Because one of the premises of Boltz is that it works with no matter what Bitcoin wallet you have, no matter what Lightning wallet you have. That's our approach. We want to be compatible, and we have to be compatible with all of these. So Boltz 12 really depends on adoption. But believe me, behind the scenes, we're actually asking actively some wallets to
to
get that.
I get that question a lot, and people are really confused, especially using Automic Swap, and they prefer actually do prefer using the mainnet because they think it's easy and simple.
It's easier, yeah. Even though it's expensive, but it's easy. Yes. What you can tell users instead, now that Boltz is not available yet, to use a Lightning address instead. So if they have Albi, they can just put in their Albi address and into the Boltz swap box. So they put their Albi address, and the web app automatically fetches an invoice for the correct amount that they put on top automatically behind the scenes. So that's the solution for users to not copy paste amounts between a Lightning wallet and the Boltz website. Just use the Lightning address if the wallet has a Lightning address. For example, GetLB has one. So that's the best solution so far that we have. For the other direction, where you are sending on chain, it's a nightmare. I'm honest with you. It's a nightmare that there are network fees, and you basically have to tell the user, okay, this is what you have in your wallet. But then there would be network fees deducted. So for us, we only get this amount, right? So make sure that this amount that reaches us is the one that you put into the swap box. And it's just so hard to explain because there's so many different wallets out there. The screens always look different. Yeah, that one we don't have a really good solution yet. I'm honest with you. I don't know how to solve it
yet. No, you don't have to. At the end of the day, Lightning is still developing, and I think we can better come up with some good solutions maybe in the next year. especially for major integration with other major wallets for Bolt 12, and then we can proceed,
so.
you know, the shift of user experience of that.
Yeah.
That kind of jumps to the last question. You know, what can we expect in the future of Boltzexchange? I mean, like one is user experience, and maybe do we have something else like an app that's still in development, or other?
Yeah, good question. A native app, I guess you're talking about. We don't plan that. So we have our web app. You can install it as so-called PWA. The reason for that is for Boltz itself, it doesn't make too much sense to be a native app since there's no wallet integrated. There's no, you know, private keys to be protected, at least no permanent private keys. So there's no real need for a native app. Plus, as we recently have seen, native Bitcoin apps have a lot of issues with especially Apple Review to even get passed. So I don't think we want to get into that game of trying to get App Store approvals for our new apps if it can be as easy as a website. So we actually said, okay, how do we get people to install Boltz as an app? And it actually works right now. So if you go to Boltz.app, what loads is a super simple instruction how to install Boltz as an app. Differs on iOS and Android, but in the end, the end result, you basically go in your browser, say install, and it ends up as an icon on your home screen, and you can use it just like any other app.
Yeah.
That's the PWA technology. Yes.
I think that's the best alternative, like the best scenario so far. You actually you don't need because like what you said, the app really, you know, undertaken a lot of, you know, either reviews or, you know, inspections and so on. I think this is the best way to handle that. I mean, I haven't used it, but I would definitely have just to check it out.
Yeah, check it out. Let us know what we can improve with regards to the installation process. But in the end, well, the installation process is kind of the system. It's on iOS, it's this way, on Android, it's this way, and there's not much we can change about it. But let's say one day we decide we want to be a wallet too and put in a wallet, then a native app makes sense because you want to have it, you know, protected in a native installation on the phone. But so far, we're pretty happy with the web app only approach. It works on every device out there. Sometimes there's an incompatibility here or there, but in general, the great thing is it works everywhere. There's not a single device on this planet that you can't use Boltz even on your TV if you want to, if it has a browser, right? So that's the great thing about a web app. So we rather put more effort into making the web app really great instead of having a separate native Android app, a separate native iOS app, and we are a very small team, so we really need to, you know, control our efforts and where to put focus on.
How many are, like, what's the size of your team? Four.
Yeah, so that's why. So we're all wearing a lot of hats. I'm the only one that is actually not writing code. The other guys are all like coding. I'm doing this kind of stuff. I'm doing also a lot of customer support now, and basically everything else: product roadmap, reviews, testing, the social media channel. You know, like this project is really it's a full suite of everything. So you need to.
I have been there. Yeah, I mean it's a lot of work, especially I mean marketing, networking, and you know you gotta do, you know, panel, you know, talk and stuff.
Exactly.
That's a lot of work to do.
Yes.
To be honest, I mean as a startup, as a very niche and small team, I think you guys have done a really good job.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, we're trying to focus. Good job in focusing, I think, so far, yes. But I don't want to exclude native apps. Situations might change. We might have functionality where it makes sense. So.
Definitely, yeah. Thanks again for, I mean, this wonderful walkthrough, you know, kind of talk. I don't want to call it like an interview and stuff, but it's a very sweet talk, I mean, between you. And I get to learn a lot about Boltzexchange. I mean, it's really, like, honestly, it's really good to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So I think that's all for today. Thanks for the watching.